right, let's get started. So many of you are well aware of the traditional ways of performing construction administration on site. Architects and engineers for many, many years have resorted to old-fashioned clipboard, pen and paper. Maybe a camera comes with you and adds some extra work to grabbing those images, throwing them into a report of some type. Maybe it's directly in Word. I remember when spreadsheets started hitting the job site, that was kind of the next greatest thing. Had to take a full computer out there, and then some iPads started to show up on site here and there. But then ultimately that data was kind of flat, segmented data, became pretty stagnant pretty quickly. You had to manually update it, possibility of version mistakes, that type of thing, overwriting one another. Not to mention that image there brings back a lot of memories as well, printing and bringing rolls of drawings out to the job site. I remember having those big drawing protectors that you could slide it into, the big tubes, and carrying those around, having my truck full of them with all the different jobs that I was on. Who the heck wants to do that anymore, let alone the expense of printing? I know that when my construction firm that I was working with, when we went paperless, they said they were saving roughly company-wide, and again, it was a really big company, but they were saving about $400,000 a year just on printing. Pretty amazing. So to kick things off here today, I wanted to start with a poll. So Fiona, if you want to bring up the poll here. So
right.
What tools are you currently using for construction administration? We wanted to get a feel for what everyone was utilizing. If it is those spreadsheets, if you have used the Autodesk Construction Cloud before, maybe you're just trying to figure out how to use it for construction administration, good old-fashioned pen and paper like we mentioned, or maybe some other third-party tools. We've got a couple listed there in Newforma, Bluebeam, Word documents. Those are what we've seen most frequently. So if you'll go ahead and answer that poll, we'll see the results here in a little bit for what everyone else on the call is utilizing. So again, what tools are you using for CA? Spreadsheets, Autodesk Construction Cloud, whether that's Docs, Build, any and all in the Construction Cloud, pen and paper, or any of those third-party tools.
So Blake, I know when you and I were planning this webinar, we thought there might be a pretty good even spread on these different methods of doing it. So it'll be interesting to see the results we get.
Absolutely.
Nick, do you think we've given them enough time to put down some answers?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got. Well, I'm happy to say that no one's using pen and paper anymore. That's really exciting. Excel spreadsheets, yeah, that's kind of the standard and where it all really started moving into technology. So I think some of the things that we'll show today are really exciting, and we'll take that Excel spreadsheet kind of to the next level. And any of those Newforma, Bluebeam, Word doc, third-party tools, I think the messaging around continuing your design phase into the construction phase with the Autodesk Construction Cloud will be pretty impactful for those users. And for those that are utilizing the Autodesk Construction Cloud already, maybe you'll get some neat tips and tricks, or you'll be able to ask some questions around specifics in your processes that we can maybe try to answer today. So for those of you that are utilizing those Excel spreadsheets, look at all of this technology and innovation that we're seeing move into the construction space. It is really beginning kind of this technological revolution in the job site. And we've got drones that are out there capturing existing conditions very easily with pretty limited expense. We've got those exoskeletons that are enabling job sites to be safer. They have trackers in them as well that are telling folks on the site where safe areas are, where there are unsafe areas, where they're not allowed to be based on certifications, OSHA requirements, et cetera. That's pretty exciting stuff. And then the AR and VR environments. Those are really helping us visualize the model in the field, understanding what each phase of the project should look like through things like 4D modeling. You can see even there the VR is being utilized to upskill workers through training. So really exciting, innovative technology hitting the job sites, but then we've got we've got spreadsheets, right? We've got this kind of dumbed down data, if you will, on stuff that is actually really, really important on the job site and understanding where the project is and how we're actually performing to completion. So now let's look at what these construction administration tools look like from Autodesk and what they're ultimately going to allow you to do. In the form of RFIs and submittals, you can very quickly and easily respond to the field questions, helping to maintain that project schedule. Checklists and asset management easily record the field progress, so you can see how each phase of the project is progressing, what has been installed, what is yet to be installed, what has been commissioned, etc. Really helping to get towards a quality completion. And then one thing that Fiona and I were talking about the other day when we were putting this together that she sees very often with some of her clients is forensic retrieval for litigation. So Autodesk Build tracks all of the data. We call it even sub-data with date, time, user information automatically whenever anything is entered. It becomes a single source of truth for everything that occurred on the project. And in the event that you have to go to trial for whatever reason, we know it happens, this can be that mechanism to help you get through any of those cases.
So Blake, before you change slides to the audience, on that last item of the forensic retrieval, this is a question that more clients are asking me about. They know they have really good construction administration processes they're doing, but if many years pass, say 4 years, and they have to pull up information around a certain question, they're not sure how they're going to retrieve it. So that's brought them to think, what could they do with the Autodesk Construction Cloud? So that was one of the scenarios.
Yeah, and even thinking about the organization of data and putting it in, say, a centralized server, and you may have different subfolders for different teams. Maybe your design team is in one folder, your construction team is in another folder. Based on project completion, maybe some things get archived, maybe some things don't. So having, like I said, a single source of where that information resides can really help to mitigate the risk of missing something or just the time associated with gathering all that information for litigation. So let's talk now about the Autodesk Construction Cloud. This is really how architects and engineers can up their technology usage to complement their design tools and leverage all that information in the field. So within this, you have really a best-in-class technology to support the workflows spanning the entire construction process from design to plan to build and operate. With data shared across all the phases, teams are connected and informed to make the decisions during each one of these phases, and ultimately for turnover of the data to operations and owners. There's analysis of the data built in. There's an insights tool that allows you to identify, prioritize, and even resolve problems earlier in the process. And different connections to partners will allow you to build the confidence you need to choose the best platform. So within the Autodesk Construction Cloud, we'll talk a little bit about what integration looks like, what its capabilities are, but then how you can leverage it with other tools that you may have to utilize pending what your business processes look like. So let's get into some of the details of what these tools are capable of. First, we've got Autodesk Docs. This is what Autodesk calls the common data environment. This is document versioning automatically so that everyone on the team is working off the latest information. You can compare between different versions. It's fully configurable in terms of a review process. Before any documents are shared, you have a workflow that document can go through in order to send it out to the team at large. There's also a transmittal tool that will allow you to notify any internal or external teams that they need to be in the know of updated information. You can see here on this slide as well, it's got a very, very robust model visualization tool. We call it the large model viewer. And within that, you can segment your model based on a number of different elements, whether it's levels. You can look at individual elements based on their type. You can identify all of the property information associated with that. So in that image there, it's a little small, but you can see that we're looking at a specific window, and it's got all the dimensioning, any manufacturer information, all the information that would have been put into the model in the first place in Revit can be visualized here. One thing to note about Docs, and I think this is particularly important for this audience, is that it is included with your AEC collections. Let me say that again. It's included with your AEC collection. So if you have a collection today from Autodesk, you already have access to Docs, and it's a great kind of initial step into the Autodesk Construction Cloud and its capabilities. So let's get into some of the other details that we talked about at the beginning around RFI processes, et cetera. So within Autodesk Build, the big pieces are going to be found inside of project management, inside of quality management, and inside of cost management. Note that all of this is integrated with document management. So document management is still that underlying foundation of where all your project documents reside. And now all of these different tools are kind of pulling from that same environment. So you don't have to update documents in project management. You don't have to update documents in quality management. They're all interconnected into document management. So project management, that's where you're going to find your RFIs and submittals, where architects and engineers can very easily be included in the workflow. So they'll be generated by subcontractors or the GC themselves. Then they can include any of the architects and engineers that they see fit into the workflow and get a response very, very quickly. Again, the name of the game here is speed of that communication, and it's going to have all the details and all the information that you need right in one system. So you're not going to have to go and grab pictures, grab a report, email back and forth, setting up different share file sites, those types of things. This is all one comprehensive environment to do all that. Within quality, architects and engineers are able to run through their standard checklists throughout the project to ensure that the design intent is being followed and the project is being built to spec. The forms section within quality management is very, very, very configurable. So you can set up your forms, really anything that you've got today that you've got in spreadsheets or maybe in some of those other third-party tools that we talked about, you can directly replicate right in Build and build out even more capabilities. There's smart data behind it so that as we start to gather the data, we can build reports, we can get insights, gathering them across individual projects as well as across all projects that you're working on. And then cost management has a change management component that ties RFIs back to any cost implications. And so if there's a necessary design change and we need approval from the architect or engineer or the owners, it can be tracked and ultimately affect the budget. So cost management, probably not from a specific user perspective with this group, architects and engineers, but being involved in that change management process could be important for you all. All right, so here I wanted to give a little glimpse of what is capable within the system. So these are a number of different reports that we had built out, and you can see they have their date, their timestamp, like we mentioned, who created them. There can be templates for these reports. They can be built out on a schedule so that they go out, weekly. Every Friday afternoon, we've got a summary of what happened over the course of the week, and we can automate who they are sent to. So the next slide is a glimpse of what, building out one of those filtered issues. This one, we're looking at issues, but you can do this with RFIs. You can do this with all your checklists and forms. You can do this with your submittals, generating reports the way you want to see them and what you need to see, what's important to you. So you can add all these different layers of filters, times where, maybe we want to look at the start of the week and the end of the week. You can really dial in what the reports look like. So I generated one quickly, and I will share my screen here so that we can go through what it looks like, because I think it's kind of cool to see. Ultimately, we can kind of generate one of these QA reports for all of you. So here, all of this information is configurable, so obviously who created it, when they created it, but this here would have your company logo, for example. Then as we go through, you can see we've got a table of contents where we can easily click to any one of the other pages. But now this is where you've got all the smart data tied together. We've got a quick little snapshot of what the document looks like, where this issue resides in the pushpin, what type of information we're looking at, and then all of the associated information. And right here, we've got a hyperlink that'll take us right back into the Autodesk Build platform, right where this pushpin is, and we can see all the details associated with it. So as we flip through this quick report, we can identify, okay, what is important, who's done what, and where. You can see we've got some imagery of different things that maybe are happening on the job site. So this could be our report, observation report for the whole year, and we can, the whole week, and we can identify what needs to be accomplished next week and taken care of. So really cool information there.
Blake, can you maybe start at the beginning of that report and just go through it one more time?
Yeah. Let me head back there.
And while this is going, if anyone has questions, we'll be covering questions at the end. So if you see anything you want to ask a question on, just type it in the question window.
Yep, so again, very configurable in terms of what it looks like, how it's kind of built out. But you'll notice here that we've got the project title, the title of the report itself, again, any company information that you might need, and then really important, all of the information associated with it. And there's even more information that sits inside the system. There's a communication tab with around each issue. So if I needed to mention Fiona in a issue for her to potentially resolve something for me, I just do the @mention button, mention Fiona, and then she is pinged automatically that, hey, on this particular issue, we're working to resolve it. You'll notice we've got our due dates, so we can quickly identify, hey, maybe this is stagnant and we need to get somebody on this because it's well past its due date. We need to get this resolved. We can very easily see that in any of these reports. And these reports can be really important to a number of different people on the project, a number of different stakeholders, right? So if you need to get the information out of the system, you can do that in the form of this PDF. Very easily email this off if you have someone that's external to the Autodesk Build system that needs access. So here's generally what a report might look like.
That's great. Thanks, Blake.
All right. Let's jump back into our presentation. So one thing that you might be saying to yourself is, hey, I've already got the AC collections, so I've got Docs, or I already have BIM Collaborate Pro in order to leverage the Revit work sharing environment. Why would I also need Build? So the biggest piece would be for the integrated project management, quality management, and cost management tools in order to communicate effectively with the contractors, right? The contractors in general don't have BIM Collaborate Pro. Some do, but it's really primarily in their VDC department, not really going to be for anyone involved in the field environment. Docs, it has capabilities, right? It can get you kind of that first step into paperless, getting drawings out to the field very easily, creating issues, creating markups, those types of things. But in missing the RFIs, the submittals, the checklists, the punch list, those types of things, Build really shines for construction administration. So with that, I know many of you are familiar with how you acquire the licenses. With Build, it can be sold on a per user basis. It can be sold on a per project basis. And it is the most cost-effective way to get the model into the field via the mobile application. So that that's something to be noted, is that Autodesk Docs does not have a mobile app today. I don't know if that's coming. I don't know if it'll ever actually happen, but Autodesk Build is the way to get the model into the field, and it's actually through the old PlanGrid app. So
Blake, there was one question. Yep. Sorry to interrupt. There was a question that came through that referenced back to the report that you did. They asked about the customization that you did with the report. Is there a lot involved, or did you have it pretty standard out of the box? And I think, to me, there's two parts to the question, because some companies have standards that they really want to follow, and some just slightly modify the way the product comes. Can you talk to that, please?
Yeah, so out of the box, there's a lot of capabilities in terms of getting a summary report versus a detailed report, and it'll just come out as kind of as the system sees fit. But within this slide here that you can see, you've got these filters all along the right-hand side, and that's what allows you to customize the actual data that's presented. So you can look at the different categories. Those are going to be the types of issues that we're seeing. You can look at the statuses, so maybe you only want to look at the ones that are open or in review. You want to exclude everything that is already closed out. That's maybe no longer important to you. You can look at specific locations. So if you have maybe multiple people running CA on the same job site, but it's segmented into different areas, different levels, different wings, different buildings, right? If it's kind of a campus type build, you can narrow in on the location. You can figure out exactly who it's assigned to. So maybe you only want to see ones that are assigned to you at the moment. Maybe not as important for this group. But then again, you can filter in based on date or what the root cause might have been. So the filtering is really what's going to get you the data that you need. In terms of setting up the imagery for your project and your company, that's all done at an administrative level. And so that generally is done very early on in the project and is done pretty quickly and easily at the beginning. And then you don't need to worry about setting that up for the rest of the project. It just comes through automatically.
Okay, thank you. There is another question or comment when you were talking about people using Docs. So you mentioned that Docs doesn't have a mobile app. If you want to have the mobile viewing, then you would have a license of Autodesk Build. Can you speak to that
Correct.
a bit more, please?
Yeah, so that brings up an interesting topic and kind of a wormhole, if you will. But ultimately, there was BIM 360, right, and there was PlanGrid. And Autodesk acquired PlanGrid. They said, we want to take the best of both of BIM 360 and PlanGrid, and we want to combine them. And that's really what Autodesk Build is. It's taking all the great capabilities of Build, it's taking the amazing user interface on the mobile applications from PlanGrid and putting them together. When they did that, they had some limitations with Docs capabilities, and as such, didn't make Docs the de facto mobile app. That being said, for those of you that are on this call and are looking for kind of that low-hanging fruit, how can I get the model out to the field? Maybe I already have AEC collections and I don't want to increase my spend. BIM 360 Docs is still available. That's still included with your collections as well, and that still has a BIM 360 mobile app. So if you do need, hey, I just want to get my information to the field, I don't want to necessarily be involved in all of the other processes, RFI submittals, et cetera, that we've talked about, BIM 360 Docs can get you there. But really, I think writing on the wall is that Autodesk Build and the PlanGrid mobile app is the platform of the future, and that's the direction that Autodesk is really driving towards. So great question there. It can be confusing. So if you do have additional questions around that, obviously feel free to put those in the Q&A panel.
Yeah, Blake, and I'll add a little bit from my experience with customers who are facility owners. facilities owners often have many parts of the building they have to either maintain or they have to keep up with. Take, for example, each year or multiple times a fire inspector will come around and look at, aspects that's code compliant. And so the idea of data for facilities, that is what Autodesk is building out in their, and you're looking at your column, the one that says build, the unified platform. In other words, one unified data source for all aspects of the building. So that's the other reason why we see Autodesk's build platform speaking to that, to what the facilities need. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think that's why Autodesk migrated away from doing the mobile app with just the docs, because for a facility, it's in many cases what is actually built and installed, whether it's a general contractor or their own specialty contractor. So that's what we've been seeing for the facilities perspective.
Definitely. So what else can the Construction Cloud do for you? It can help you add value to owners. So as this technology has become more important in the design and construction phase, it's equally becoming as important for building operators. What we're seeing is Autodesk moving to this digital twin environment where owners at the end of a project have a completed as-built model, and they can then run their facilities maintenance, facilities management off of that model itself. They can do things like updating the properties as they change out items. They can include information that you might find in specifications historically into that model. So effectively adding additional data to the model in terms of what was installed, when it was installed, who it was installed by, what its maintenance schedule is, maybe what its warranty is. So that can be really, really important as these owner-operators leverage their asset for the life cycle of that building. So looking at these, Autodesk Bridge, that's something that I failed to mention. This is something that's becoming really, really important, and it is continuing to be built out, and it's really, really exciting. This is something that I've been clamoring for so long. Autodesk Bridge is taking the ability to have multiple accounts, so multiple Autodesk Construction Cloud accounts, and communicate between those accounts. So as it sits today, right now it's just documents, but they are building it out so that it will be everything that we talked about, RFIs, submittals, checklists across the board. And you have the ability then to push those to other accounts. So many times you get on a job site, the general contractor's got their own account, you've got the subcontractors that have their own account, maybe the architect now in this case for construction administration has their own account, and then the owner ultimately has their own account. So that's potentially if you include some of the specialty consultants on the engineering side, you can have upwards of 5, 6, 7 accounts on one project. So Bridge allows you to connect those different accounts very easily and move information between them. So now an owner's rep, for example, could communicate directly with the field. In the end, everyone has their own data that they still own, right? Like we talked about with litigation. You want to own that data. You don't want to be cut off at the end of the project and not have access to that. You've got everything that you did and you recorded in your system, but very easily through Bridge, you can determine what you're going to send to any of the other accounts or vice versa, receive from any of those other accounts. So really, really cool. I'm really excited about that one as it continues to be built out. The other thing that I mentioned was the digital twin environment. That is the tool Autodesk Tandem in the top right. You can see they've got, looks like a selected inline valve there, and they've got all the property information, but then all of the supplemental information.
Blake, I think you need to advance your slide one, maybe.
Oh, perfect. Thank you for reminding me there. So now you can see it. Now you can see that image of what Tandem looks like. So it's got the model viewer information, and it's got all of the associated properties and additional supplemental information that they've added into the environment. So that digital twin is really driven off of the model, but it's built for facility managers. So now they can simply identify where a problem is on site, click on it, and see it right in the model associated with all of the submittal information that might have come with it. And then lastly, as it gets integrated into the Autodesk Build environment, we have Autodesk Pipe. This is another tool that was acquired from Autodesk, and it easily ensures that all submittals during the project are covered and creates a very easy handover process. So this is a tool that for the architects and engineers, you can be added into kind of that review process if you so choose, to review all the submittals, identify anything that maybe is conflicting, or reinsure that everything is built to spec, that is falling under what your design intent was. All right, I'll make sure that I advance the slide here this time. So now let's talk about connecting everyone on the job site. We talked a little bit about that with Bridge, but there may be other systems, other tools that are being utilized out of necessity to run the project, to run your business. And there are a number of ways that you can do that with the capabilities of the Autodesk environment. The first, and this is a little bit of a plug for us, is 360 Sync. This is a tool that about, 6 years now, Applied Software created with the intent to make it so that everyone on the project site, regardless of what system they were using, had access to the same information. They wanted to move documents from, competing products, Procore to BIM 360 or to Autodesk Construction Cloud or PlanGrid or Bluebeam, et cetera. So as an architect now, you can be sure that any of the documents you're storing, whether it's in your connected drives like Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, or within the Autodesk Construction Cloud environment, gets to the contractors, gets to the right folks when they need it. It also can be a great mechanism for backup. We see that pretty regularly. Hey, I want Autodesk Construction Cloud to be my de facto common data environment, but that resides on the cloud. There is a level of risk and security there, so we also want to store it on a central server. We want to store it in another location, in another file mechanism. We can very easily and seamlessly do that with 360 Sync on an automated schedule. So you don't have to have someone go in there. Right now, you'd have to click on any folder structure, download it, and then move it. Here you can simply have this run. It's going to check for any updated versioning. Really simple user interface. I can't say how impactful 360 Sync is. So if you're interested in that, obviously feel free to reach out. Along those same lines, though, when we're looking at integration, I know this slide can be an eyesore and there's a lot going on, but Autodesk Construction Cloud via Forge, as well as what they call Autodesk Construction Cloud Connect, you might hear it called ACC Connect, which is built on the Workato platform, allows them to very easily integrate with, now over 180 different partners. So you can see some of these items in the top right that I think about for this audience. You got your Outlook in there. You got Zoom. You got Gmail. So if you're using the G Suite, Office 365. So it's got those integrations, Microsoft Teams, integrations directly with those other systems that allow you to automate a lot of maybe tedious efforts, allow for the elimination of duplication of efforts or data entry. This is really, really important as you start to look at your business as a whole and how you're running it. So if you have a need for integrating to any one of these or via the APIs, that's the beauty of the APIs. We're not just limited to this list. We're not limited to what platforms or what tools are already on ACC Connect and Workato. With the APIs, Applied Software has the ability to help you integrate to your heart's content, really. It really just depends on open API availability on the other end. All right.
And Blake, I do have another question when you think there's a good time.
Yeah, we'll go to this poll question real quick, and then we'll jump to any questions at the end here. So we did want to hear from you. Do you want to chat with someone from Applied Software in more details regarding construction administration? We could go through workflows in more detail. I know we talked about the reports. We saw an issue report. We could go through a detailed description of how we build out reports for RFIs, for submittals, what the workflow looks like. So we'd be happy to go into more details regarding that, and especially if you're interested in acquiring the Construction Cloud. So if you have any interest, go ahead and type in the poll there.
Yes, Blake, can you hear me?
I can, yep.
Good. Yeah, so I see the question the person's put up, but I'm going to kind of go through a two-step process. When you showed us doing the construction administration report today, that sample report, on a mobile application, you were using the Autodesk Build mobile app. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Right. And I think one of the advantages is that you could take a photograph, mark it on what you were looking at on the mobile app of the piece of the drawing, it's an elevation, a section, or a schedule, and then you could put in comments, whether you typed them or you voice dictated. That was the workflow efficiency tools that you were using. Is that correct?
It was, yep. So when we're looking at Autodesk Build, primarily that really is driven off of data that's acquired in the field. When we're looking at, some of the other tools, Autodesk BIM Collaborate Pro, that's all going to be in-office, Revit-based. When we're looking at something like Autodesk Docs, now that's going to be kind of office-based because it is strictly on the PC or through a web browser, I guess, which that's something that could be said as well, that you do have the ability to use Docs, Autodesk Docs, in a web browser on your mobile application. But in my opinion, it really isn't best suited for that. You run into sizing and formatting. Speed can be an issue. And if you're on a remote job site that cellular is pretty limited, you're going to be operating very, very slowly, if at all. Whereas in the mobile application for both BIM 360 and PlanGrid, you have the ability to operate in an offline fashion. So you go through all your processes throughout the day. When you get home or get back to an office where you're in a connected environment, it'll automatically update all that information in the cloud for you. So can't stress enough that BIM 360 Docs, you have a mobile app. You do get that with the AEC collections, but the industry really is transitioning to this new unified platform of Autodesk Build, which is built on that PlanGrid mobile app, and there's a lot more capabilities within that system.
I think
all right, so I think everyone answered our poll. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, and I think that
all
covered
right.
the question, Blake, that the person was asking.
Perfect.
They were looking for some clarity. They were looking,
Fiona, that you saw?
Yeah, they were looking for clarity on what was in the AEC collection with regards to Autodesk, the docs. That's what the clarity they were asking for.
Okay. Yeah, you do get both BIM 360 Docs and Autodesk Docs in the AEC collection. You get access to both platforms.